Utagi watches her favorite boy band Face on TV. She notes that every guy in the idol group is handsome, but she has a bias toward Taemin. As the first verse plays, she goes crazy over his godly looks. While her parents are fine with her obsession, her siblings scoff at it. As she fangirls away, she feels thankful that her family doesn't stop her from openly expressing her love for Taemin. In her room, she fixes the acrylic standees of Taemin. She looks at the shrine she made of him, admiring all the collectibles she's gathered over time. She jokes that he should be arrested for how handsome he is. She replays his audition tape, reminiscing about how innocent and earnest he used to be. Suddenly, a notification pops up alerting her that the lottery results for the concert tickets she applied for are in. She screams in anticipation and jumps onto her bed, forcing herself to calm down. She paces around the room, convincing herself that she'll be fine regardless of the outcome. She opens the message and lets out a scream when she realizes she won the ticket. The next day, she reports to her part-time job after one of her coworkers calls in sick. She happily accepts, knowing she needs to earn money to support Face. As she looks at the job order sheet, she notices the name of her client is Taemin. Her imagination runs wild, wondering if it might actually be Face's Taemin. She quickly convinces herself that it's just a fantasy. When she arrives at the apartment building, she notices how run-down it is, reasoning that there's no way Taemin would be living in such a place. She opens the apartment door and is shocked to find the place in complete disarray. In the corner, Taemin sits, looking as if he hasn't bathed in days. She blinks at him, recognizing that he is Taemin. She pretends not to recognize his idol background and tells him she'll start cleaning. Taemin tells her to go ahead. Still a bit frazzled by everything, she moves to the other room. She wonders if Taemin might secretly be an introvert. When she tries to return to the previous room to ask for some cleaning supplies, she overhears Taemin mumbling to himself about Utagi exposing him online and ruining his career. He believes that someday someone will stab him in a dark alley, leaving him there to die. Utagi can only stare at him, wondering if this is truly the real Taemin. As she starts cleaning, her thoughts drift to the upcoming concert. She worries that Taemin might even quit from mental exhaustion before it happens. When he enters the room, she realizes she can't allow him to give up and decides she needs to cheer him up. Gathering her courage, she tells him that she's been a longtime fan and that she's thankful he was born. To her surprise, Taemin apologizes and feels terrible that she poured all her devotion into an imposter like him. That makes Utagi snap, thinking of every other Taemin fan out there. She marches over to his corner and tells him not to look down on a fan's love for their idol. She proudly declares her love for him, even calling him a god. Still proudly showing off how much she admires him, she goes on about how he's the embodiment of the Holy Trinity itself. Eventually, things calm down and she returns to cleaning. She admits that she's surprised by Taemin's personality at home. He explains that his onstage persona was decided by the agency and that he's really just mimicking someone he admires so he can make everyone smile. Utagi realizes it's the same line he said during his audition. He adds that in his normal state, there's no way he can make anyone happy. Utagi's eyes drift to the shelves where she notices numerous books on vocal training. She tells him that even if he's gloomy, he's not an imposter. Taemin briefly believes her, but he suddenly remembers Izumi's strict instructions. He shrinks back and tells Utagi that his sudden popularity came with a lot of criticism, to the point that he stopped believing in his fans and in himself. He even considers escaping to a deserted island. Utagi panics and promises she'll keep cheering him on until he starts believing in himself, even giving this version of him the nickname Gloomihara. The next day, Utagi plays an old video of Taemin. He was lively and energetic as he introduced himself, with the other members following suit. Utagi watches as Taemin confidently draws people in with his positive energy and charisma. Comparing that version of him to the Taemin now, it's almost impossible to believe they're the same person. She continues her work by cooking him a meal. She mentions her concern, recalling how the last time she cleaned his apartment she only saw instant noodles. Taemin apologizes for recklessly spending his money. Utagi tells him she isn't angry, just surprised that he's able to perform with such a poor diet. Deciding that he needs proper nutrition, she declares that she'll cook for him. Once she finishes preparing the chicken, she tries to coax him into eating. As Taemin stares at the piece she offers, he starts imagining that the chicken might be poisoned and that she wants him dead. But when his eyes shift to Utagi, he sees her determination to make him eat. Not wanting to face her wrath, he immediately eats the entire piece in one bite. Almost instantly, confidence surges through him, awakened by the taste of an actual home-cooked meal. Utagi notices the sudden change and is caught off guard when Taemin abruptly climbs on her, asking in a low voice if he can lick it up. Her imagination runs wild and she feels as if her soul has ascended to heaven. Just as quickly, Taemin reverts to his gloomy self. He stands and explains that he's been overworking himself, causing his switch to become unstable. Suddenly, he collapses in front of her. One morning, as Utagi notices fans all around her knowing how hard Taemin is trying to live up to everyone's expectations, She decides to make tuna rolls for him. During dinner, he doesn't put up much of a fight and actually eats all the food. The next day, an interview featuring Taemin airs while Utagi is cleaning. The host notes that he seems to be in higher spirits than usual, and Taemin admits that he recently had a good dinner, adding that eating healthy allows him to perform better. Taemin blushes as he listens to the interview, and Utagi realizes he's referring to the meal she prepared for him. On another occasion, while Utagi is cleaning his bedroom, Taemin nervously approaches her. His manager instructed him to post home selfies on social media, but all the photos show his gloomy, unappealing self. Utagi remembers how Taemin always responds to the fans people bring to cheer him on during events. Thinking she can apply the same idea, she decides to try it out. Almost immediately, Taemin's switch flips and he manages to bring out his charming persona. Utagi feels her heart swell as she gets to see Taemin turn on his charm up close. For a moment, she thinks about how she could use this knowledge to her advantage, but she immediately slaps herself out of it, reminding herself not to be selfish. After the session, Taemin returns to his gloomy self but thanks Utagi for her help. He confesses that every time he takes a selfie, he normally feels like throwing up. Utagi finds this confusing, pointing out that he looks good. Taemin tries to explain that it's not about his looks, but Utagi cuts him off, insisting that selfies are all about his looks. She promises to look at the selfies as soon as they're posted, which confuses Taemin since she already watched him take them. Utagi explains that she'll never get tired of looking at him, confidently declaring that she truly believes Taemin is the best. Taemin turns away, hiding the small smile. Before leaving, Utagi reminds him to eat his dinner. Just as she reaches the door, Taemin calls out to her and says that in his current state, he's confident he can perform at the concert. Thanks to her, he no longer feels like crap and is upgraded to old trash, which to him is an improvement. Utagi tries to brush off his gratitude as just doing her job. Taemin gently argues that she deserves his compliments. He shares that he hears those words a lot whenever he performs and that he honestly feels happy every time he does. Tears suddenly form in Utagi's eyes, making Taemin worry that he might have said something offensive. She quickly reassures him, saying she's especially happy because his thank you comes from both Taemin and Gloomhair. Taemin finally smiles at her and thanks her again, saying that he's fine now because of her constant scolding. Utagi suddenly drops her bag, her heartbeat turning erratic at the sight of his nervous smile. Taemin immediately assumes she dropped her bag because she was grossed out by his smile, and he tries to hide it. Utagi immediately tackles him, insisting that hiding such a beautiful and sincere smile is a waste. They fall to the ground and she admits that she loves his clumsy smile. Just then, one of his managers walks in on them. They're both scolded, especially Taemin, for failing to maintain his appearance. Utagi flees the apartment as they are scolded. She feels conflicted, realizing the affection she's beginning to develop for Taemin's gloomy side. As a fan, she feels like she's broken a huge rule by pouncing on him. The next morning, news breaks that a crazed fan broke into an idol's home to hug him. At school, Utagi's friends gossip about the incident, calling the girl in the news a low-life fan. Knowing the topic is about her, Utagi stiffly agrees with her friends as they shift the conversation back to how amazing Taemin looks in his newly released photoshoot. While the images lift her spirits, she also finds herself fondly remembering how Taemin looks at home. She quickly tries to drive those images out of her head, but ends up kneeling on the floor in defeat. Pulling out her phone, she's greeted by Taemin's image. She knows that if she were to see him again, she might pounce on him. By late afternoon, Taemin eagerly waits for Utagi to arrive for her cleaning duties. When the doorbell rings, he rushes to open it, only to be disappointed when he finds Toda, his former housekeeper, instead. Meanwhile, Utagi is back home, missing Taemin. From now on, she resolves to return to being a normal fan. Finally, the day of the concert arrives and Face takes center stage, striking their signature pose. They've just finished a portion of the concert and take the opportunity to properly greet everyone, thanking them for making the show possible. Each of them gets a line in, acknowledging the fans' support. Utagi is in the crowd, clutching both light sticks tightly. She's convinced that Face is the idol group of this era, and she's proud to be their fan. The lights dim, and soon a spotlight shines on the boys as the next song begins. Taemin takes center at the opening verse, his vocals immediately drawing cheers. The other members follow his lead seamlessly, delivering their lines flawlessly. At the climax of the song, each member rises onto their own platform, moving to different parts of the stadium. Utagi feels her heart swell at the sight. Part of her is happy to be part of such a wonderful experience, but another part aches from no longer being close to Taemin. She screams out how cool Taemin is. Somehow he hears her voice and looks her way, managing to spot the signboard Utagi is holding up. After the concert, as Utagi is about to leave, she's suddenly pulled into a private area. She looks up to see Taemin looking upset at her. Taemin tells her that he noticed her crying in the crowd. Utagi urges him to leave her alone, reminding him that other fans want time with him too and that she can't be selfish. Taemin argues that he can no longer live without her and wants her support directly by his side. He buries his face into her shoulder and Utagi finds herself accepting his words. He's relieved but slips back into his nervous self. As Tammin runs off to greet his fans, Utagi cheers him on one last time before slipping away herself, hiding from sight. In her dream, Utagi sees Tammin effortlessly flirting with her. As she's about to enjoy their closeness, she wakes up in her bedroom and realizes it was a fantasy. She feels disappointed, but her mood quickly lifts when she pulls out her ticket to face his handshake event. Utagi walks happily on her way to Tammin's place, feeling that she's gotten her money's worth by being able to participate in the handshake event. The thought motivates her to work even harder so she can spend more on Face. When she reaches Tammin's apartment, she's greeted by the sight of Tammin announcing that he wants to quit, with Wataru firmly refusing his request due to the massive amount of money the company has invested in him. Tammin eventually collapses to the floor as Wataru steps aside to answer a call, ignoring Utagi as he rushes out of the apartment. Facing Tammin, Utagi asks if she heard him correctly. Tammin can only whine in response, complaining about the upcoming handshake event. He admits that the thought of interacting with people makes him want to throw up from nervousness. Utagi crouches down and gently tells him that the event is a chance to see his fans' smiles up close. Still, Tammin is convinced he'll mess it up somehow. He imagines his hands being sweaty and worries that fans will find it gross and out of character for someone whose persona is supposed to be hot and wild. He then complains about that very title, saying he can't fathom why anyone would find it attractive when it feels like he could be accused of harassment. That's when Utagi snaps and scolds him, insisting that fans think highly of him and that being able to stand close to him is considered a blessing. She forces him to look at her as she insists that hot and wild can also be interpreted as world peace. Tammin trembles under her intense gaze and apologizes. She quickly softens and tells him that while his hot side is certainly attractive, his gloomy side has its own charm. Calming down, Tammin agrees to go through with the event for the sake of his fans. Moved by Tammin's determination to make his fans happy, Utagi lays out the notes she's kept on him for the past 2 years, which is an impressive amount of compiled data. She explains that by studying his persona carefully, he should be able to maintain it for longer periods. Tammin flips through the notes, amazed to find details about himself that he doesn't even remember, but he ultimately agrees with Utagi's logic. She smiles, knowing her plan is working and that she'll be able to enjoy the event. Tammin suddenly says he wants to practice and asks Utagi to pretend she's attending the event. Utagi shuffles away. Tammin takes her hesitation negatively, assuming that Utagi simply doesn't want to waste her time on him. Hearing this, Utagi immediately insists that she's willing to sacrifice her life for him. As she promises to support him, Tammin's Harihara persona emerges, and he pulls her close, making Utagi combust and collapse into a corner. Gloomy Hara immediately takes over and panics as he rushes to help her. He insists they should stop, explaining that he doesn't want to hurt her anymore. Utagi recovers and admits that being able to help Tammin makes her genuinely happy. She confesses that when she was going through a difficult time, listening to his voice was what cheered her up. Seeing that she's fine, Tammin tries again. However, as they continue practicing, Utagi keeps short-circuiting from how close and how attractive Tammin is. He even goes as far as picking her up and proposing to her. Utagi feels that he's clearly overdoing it, and just as she predicted, Tammin vomits and reverts back to gloomy Hara. He sits down with a cup of tea and asks Utagi to evaluate him during the actual handshake event. His determined yet nervous expression makes Utagi fall for him even more. On the day of the event, Utagi waits for her turn to shake hands with Tammin. She's pleased with the turnout, seeing how many fans are around. Tammin also seems to be handling the event well. From her spot in line, Utagi can hear satisfied fans leaving happily after interacting with him. While listening to the fans, Utagi reminds herself that Tammin belongs to all of his fans, so she has no right to feel jealous. Her thoughts are interrupted when 2 fans in front of her begin arguing. The situation quickly escalates and Utagi worries that Tammin might hear the heated exchange. She decides to step in, demanding that the 2 fans leave since their bickering is becoming unbearable and Tammin doesn't deserve to hear such ugliness. However, a security guard notices the commotion and kicks them out of the venue, including Utagi. Only then does Utagi realize that she can no longer enjoy the event. On the train ride home, all she hears are other attendees excitedly talking about how great the fan meeting was. The conversations sting, especially knowing how much money she spent to attend. When she reaches her stop, she decides to focus on working harder so she can earn the money back. Arriving at the base for her home cleaning duties, one of the staff tells her that she has a visitor. She looks up to find Tammin waiting for her, annoyance clear on his face as he demands to know why she didn't show up at the event. Utagi lies, telling him that she lost her ticket. Tammin steps closer, takes both of her hands in his, and promises to grant her one request. After hesitating, Utagi admits that she wishes for a brief moment where Tammin is only hers. Tammin refuses the request, slipping into gloomy Hara as he tearfully explains that he doesn't want just one moment, as he wants to be praised by her many times. He confesses that her absence at the event broke his heart. Utagi's heart races at his words. Even though this isn't Harihara, she finds this version of him adorable. The next day at school, Utagi sits with her friends as they talk about how successful Face's fan meeting was. Riko voices her concern, worrying that paparazzi might release photos of their bias with a female fan someday. They decide that if it ever happens, they should just get rid of the girl. The boys nearby shudder, while Utagi is forced to agree, promising to eliminate toxic fans who think they're entitled to Tammin's time. When she arrives at Tammin's apartment, she finds him visibly upset. He tells her that his next big TV guest appearance will be on a popular show that features idols in their casual wear. While Utagi is excited by the news, Tammin is clearly worried. He admits that the clothes he's currently wearing are the only casual clothes he owns. Utagi tries to comfort him by saying that his outfit suits him, but Tammin takes it the wrong way, thinking she means that his dirty hoodies are the only thing that reflects his true personality. While she's fond of his laid-back style, she knows it doesn't fully show off the features fans love about him. She suggests that they go shopping. At the mall, Utagi waits patiently for Tammin, fully aware that he'll be wearing a disguise. She's a little disappointed when he shows up in his usual hoodie with a paper bag covering his face, but she brushes it off and leads him inside to shop. As she picks out accessories and outfits for him to try on, she relies on her knowledge of Tammin's style, built from years of watching him. She selects a wide variety of clothes and sends him off to try them on. When she goes to check on him in the fitting area, she's shocked to find that Harihara has taken over. Utagi faints, but Tammin catches her. He continues trying on more outfits, each one making him look effortlessly stylish. When he struggles with one of the accessories, Utagi helps him put it on, and they finalize his selection. Afterward, they head to the food court for drinks. Tammin thanks her and asks if she comes to this mall often. Utagi admits that she does, saying she usually comes here with her friends. Tammin watches a group of high schoolers playing games at a nearby table and quietly admits that he envies a life like theirs. As he sips his drink, he grows self-conscious, worried that he might sound ungrateful. Utagi reassures him, telling him it's perfectly fine to admire a simple life. She casually asks whether Tammin hangs out with the other members, but she's met with a heavy silence. Suddenly, Utagi's friends spot her and approach. She and Tammin quickly make up a story, claiming they're old friends from junior high school, but Riko becomes suspicious and assumes Tammin might be her boyfriend. Tammin quickly grabs Utagi's hand, and they bolt from the area. As they run, Utagi can't help but think that this feels like a secret rendezvous. Once they're finally far enough away, Utagi immediately apologizes for suggesting such a risky outing. Even though Tammin insists that it was his fault, he tries to calm her down by showing his serious expression, which immediately grabs her attention. He then admits that today actually made him happy. That simple confession is enough to make her feel like she's being blown away by the wind. The TV guesting ends in a huge success, with fans praising his style as boyfriend-worthy. On another visit, Utagi finds Tammin burnt out on the floor. Deciding this sight is unacceptable, she immediately starts cleaning him up. Once he's presentable again, Tammin admits that he tried cooking. He attempted to make egg rolls, but the result barely looked edible. Utagi calmly reassures him that everyone starts out bad. However, Tammin suddenly declares that he'll quit all activities until he can successfully cook an egg roll. Utagi panics and quickly insists that he is good at cooking something, which is making his fans smile. The statement doesn't make sense, but it lifts Tammin's spirits enough for him to agree to continue working. Watching from the side, Wataru admits that Utagi has a talent for calming Tammin down. Utagi serves Wataru some tea as he acknowledges her positive influence, noting that Tammin has been working diligently lately. Glancing over, Utagi notices Tammin watching them uneasily, and she gets the sense that he struggles to trust people. Wataru suddenly asks what services Utagi's job includes. She explains that they handle anything the client needs, including shopping and walking pets. This makes Wataru realize that Utagi was the one who helped Tammin shop for clothes and prepare for the handshake event. A chill runs through Utagi at being found out, and she immediately drops to the floor to apologize. Tammin follows, insisting that the blame should fall on him. To both of their surprise, Wataru bows to Utagi and announces that he'll be placing Tammin under her care. He admits that their agency is small and understaffed, leaving few people available to properly look after their idols. He declares that he'll take care of the gorilla, while Utagi will handle Tammin, whom he calls a zombie. Once alone with Tammin, Utagi realizes that everything she does with him now is part of her job. Her imagination immediately runs wild, but she snaps herself back to reality. She reminds herself that her role is to ensure Tammin can continue his idol activities. Reflecting on everything she's learned, she realizes that Tammin came to Tokyo alone in search of stardom. While he achieved it, It's clear that Wataru and the agency can barely provide him with proper care. It makes sense that Tammin has grown attached to her since she is a fan and can care for him. Watching him, Utagi resolves to do her job well as his housekeeper. As she cleans, her phone buzzes with a notification, and she lets out a shout of excitement when she sees that Tammin's selfies have been released. Tammin smiles at her reaction and admits that he finds her interesting, moving closer to tell her that she's special to him. Later, at home, she convinces herself that Tammin didn't mean anything by it since he always flirts with fans. She recalls how she wasn't well liked back then. But after discovering Tammin becoming his fan and supporting Face, she managed to make more friends and became a much happier person. As she watches him on TV, she decides she's content with not being special. Then her eyes fall on the necklace she picked out for him, and she suddenly remembers Tammin calling her special. A special show streams featuring Tammin and Ori hosting a cooking segment for the fans. For this episode, they prepare shaved ice to beat the summer heat. Tammin even jokes that he can melt the ice with his love, making the shaved ice extra creamy. Utagi watches from her phone, deciding that she's fine being a trampoline, a tool that can help Face soar toward the highest star. As she continues watching, she prepares to post on Face's group page. She admits that dating one of the members sounds like a fun fantasy, but she doesn't want to cross the special line between a fan and her idol. Suddenly, she remembers being called special, and how Tammin wore the necklace she picked out on television, making her panic. One evening, Tammin starts practicing his lines when Utagi asks if something is bothering him. Tammin explains that he's writing down lines for tomorrow's shoot. There's a section where he and the group need to improvise, even though they were given a script. When Utagi takes a look, she notices that most of it is actually unscripted. Tammin begins to lament that he'll need to discuss things with Ori, and the thought of interacting with him makes him nervous. Utagi is a little surprised to learn that the members aren't as close. Tammin panics, thinking she's disappointed again, and hurriedly apologizes for being distant with the other members. He says that he should be locked up and punished for misleading people. However, Utagi admits that she's actually impressed with how hard Tammin and the others work to give fans a good performance. She compliments him, saying that his acting is so flawless that everyone believes his on-screen persona is his real personality. She calls it a talent, declaring that Tammin is a genius for having it. Tammin is once again caught off guard by her praise as she heads off to prepare dinner. Once dinner is cooked and set, Utagi leaves in a good mood. As she walks away, she wonders what dishes she should try making next, only to bump into Ori. Ori takes her hand to pull her up, but Utagi freezes when she realizes who it is. To the world, Ori is known as the Prince of Face. Before joining Face, Ori had grown up wealthy thanks to his parents' influence. He had appeared in dramas and commercials from a young age, and next to Tammin, he was arguably the group's second most popular member. Utagi suddenly realizes she's still holding Ori's hand and lets go. Flustered, she excuses herself and leaves, accidentally leaving her cheering fan behind, which Ori notices. After walking a short distance, Utagi finally realizes her fan is missing. She decides to head back to Tammin's apartment, thinking she might have left it there. She knocks on the door, but no one answers. Taking a chance, she tries the handle and is shocked when the door opens easily. Listening closely, she hears someone loudly scolding and cursing at Tammin. Assuming it's a stalker, Utagi grips her light stick tightly and inches toward the source of the noise. When she peeks into the next room, she's greeted by the sight of Ori berating Tammin and hitting him with her cheering fan. Utagi freezes, staring at the absurd scene until both of them notice her. Ori stiffens, then quickly slips into his prince-like persona. He stops hitting Tammin and instead fans him gently, pretending he's only just noticed Utagi's presence. Utagi continues to stare as Ori keeps up the act, desperately trying to smooth over what she clearly saw. When he urges Tammin to play along, Tammin does. But that's when Utagi snaps. She explodes in anger, furious that her own cheering fan was used to hit Tammin's head. It doesn't matter that it was Ori who did it. Tammin panics at her reaction, while Ori grows visibly irritated that Utagi isn't one of his fans. Still seething, Utagi grabs Ori without caring how rough she's being and forcefully throws him out of Tammin's apartment. With Ori gone, she immediately turns to Tammin and asks if he's alright. Tammin insists that he is. He explains that Ori is always like that. Hearing this only makes Utagi's anger flare, as Tammin shouldn't be used to being treated that way. Before she can say more, Tammin realizes that the script still isn't finished. Almost as if on cue, the door suddenly flies open as Ori kicks it in, cursing at Utagi for daring to throw him out. He demands an apology from her, but it's Tammin who drops to his knees to apologize. Quick to cheer him on, Utagi insists that Tammin simply standing there is enough to improve the economy. Ori bristles, irritated that she seems to have completely forgotten his presence. He demands to know who she is. Utagi calmly answers that she is Tammin's housekeeper. He wonders aloud if she's just another crazed Tammin fan questions what's even likable about Tammin once his on-screen personality drops. Grabbing Tammin by the hood of his hoodie, Ori yanks him up and mocks him, even insulting the fact that Tammin was chosen as the group's center. Utagi immediately grabs Ori's wrist and declares that Tammin was born to be the center. Whether he's Gloomy Hara or Haughty Hara, the center of the world is wherever Tammin is. Turning his attention to her instead, he begins directing his insults her way, calling her a hopeless Tammin diehard. When he sneers at her pride and calls her trash, Tammin steps between them. Tammin firmly insists that Utagi is nothing like how Ori is trying to paint her. Wataru suddenly enters the apartment and scolds Ori for breaking Tammin's door. He casually hands him a cup of bubble tea, already anticipating how negatively Ori will react. Utagi quietly pokes Tammin's shoulder with her fan, wordlessly reminding him that he still needs to work. Tammin sits back down with Ori, and the two resume working on the script while Wataru starts fixing the door. Once everything is settled, Utagi gets ready to leave, though she hesitates, clearly uneasy about leaving Tammin alone with Ori. Tammin reassures her that he'll be fine since Ori will be leaving soon as well. Before she goes, he shyly asks her to watch tomorrow's shoot, promising that he'll do his best. Utagi beams and promises to watch him closely. As she heads toward the elevator, she silently vows to work hard and earn a lot of money. When she reaches the ground floor, she finds Ori already waiting for her. He corners her at the elevator and coldly demands that she keep everything she saw a secret. Utagi plainly states that she has no intention of telling anyone, but Ori clearly doesn't believe her. With a wicked smile, Ori asks if she wants anything in exchange for her silence, hinting that he could make Tammin do whatever he tells him to. Utagi snaps back, swiftly reversing their positions. She grabs him and coldly threatens to hurt him if he ever dares to insult Tammin again. Then, in an icy tone, she adds that he doesn't have to worry about his real personality being exposed, because she won't even talk about him, since she doesn't waste words on people she hates. She releases him and steps away from the elevator, leaving Ori flustered and completely confused. The next day at school, Utagi cheerfully scrolls through her phone, waiting for new face updates. A notification pops up asking, "Who is the face of Face?" When the video plays, it shows the members acting as if they're on break. They casually discuss a new song, quickly realizing that it's about heartbreak. Suddenly, the mood shifts. The members are told that the new song will feature a new center. The entire group freezes. Since debut, that position has always belonged to Tammin. Tammin is the first to recover. With a confident smile, he says that this is the perfect chance to see who the most talented member truly is and to deliver the best performance for their fans. The commercial ends with a banner announcing a 5-episode miniseries, where the members will compete to become the new center. Around Utagi, the girls at school erupt into excited chatter. But for Utagi, the announcement feels like her entire world has been shaken. After school, she goes to see Tammin, insisting that Face has no need for a new center. Tammin tries to calm her, explaining that the idea came about because Ori had always complained about not being center. He admits that Ori genuinely has the talent for it, and if he wins the show, he's willing to step aside. Hearing him put himself down again, Utagi grabs him and pulls him to her eye level. She promises that fans will always respect his decisions, but tells him firmly that not fighting for his place would be an insult to his dream. Tammin breaks down, confessing that he soaked his pillow with tears the night the project was announced. As she catches his tears, Utagi quietly admits that she loves him. The next day, Utagi and her friends gather in her room, eagerly waiting for the first episode of the new show. They all agree that no matter what happens, Tammin has to win. Otherwise, they just might storm the agency. To calm themselves down, the girls begin reassessing each of the members, starting with Tammin as the current center. They go through the rest of Face, pointing out each member's charm points. When they reach Ori, everyone agrees that he is the one most likely to beat Tammin for the center position. The girls then recall that during pre-debut, Ori was originally predicted to become the center. Tammin had been the surprise choice. Utagi then notices the start of the stream. Everyone immediately falls silent, hyper-focused on the screen. Izumi appears and explains that Face's new song is titled Rain, a heartbreaking piece meant to capture the emotional turmoil of a man losing the one he loves. The purpose of the competition is to determine who will serve as the center for this song. For the first round, each member must act out a scenario with sadness as its core theme. Ori is up first, and he's given a few seconds to read the script. He steps into the center, and his expression shifts, his voice trembles, and his performance unfolds naturally. He pulls everyone into the scene of him desperately begging the woman he loves not to leave him. Utagi, her friends, and even the judges are visibly moved by the performance. Utagi is the first to recover. She tells the girls that while Ori was undeniably good, she's confident Tammin can do even better. Next is Tammin. He takes his place at the center, just as Ori did. He delivers the same lines, but something about his performance feels off. Where Ori's sadness was gentle and restrained, Taemin's acting comes across as strangely intense. The dramatics feel mismatched with the song's tone. The judges are left unimpressed. Still, Utagi and the girls insist that Taemin did the best. The members are then asked to pretend to cry, with Taemin ranking last. Online, fans rush to defend him, saying that Taemin processes heartbreak differently. After the shoot, while everyone is cleaning up, Ori approaches Taemin with a friendly smile. Once he's sure no one is watching, he steps closer and quietly mocks Taemin for his poor performance. Even though there are still 4 episodes left, Ori confidently declares that he'll be taking the center position. To twist the knife further, he adds that Utagi is probably disappointed in him right now. That evening, Utagi finds Taemin surrounded by mushrooms sprouting around him as he wails about not knowing how to act heartbroken. He complains that he always defaults to acting like Hatihara, which doesn't suit the kind of center the song needs. Suddenly, the apartment shakes. When they move toward the entrance, Ori kicks the door open, shouting that Taemin's mushrooms have started growing in his room too. Noticing Utagi, Ori immediately asks what she thought of his performance. Utagi ignores him completely and focuses on cleaning up Taemin's mushrooms instead. She calmly tells Ori that this is only the beginning, and that Taemin still has plenty of chances to turn things around. As she moves about the apartment, she firmly tells Ori to stop bullying Taemin. Ori's anger begins to boil over. He can't understand why Utagi still supports Taemin even after seeing his gloomy self. Overwhelmed by the expectations crushing him, Ori suddenly grabs Utagi's arm. He tells her that when he becomes the center, she should come to his room. Utagi is a little confused by Ori's demand, so she explains that she can't take on any more shifts. This only angers Ori further. He declares that if he wins the competition, Utagi must stop going to Taemin's apartment and go to his instead. At that moment, Taemin begins to stir awake. When Utagi agrees to the bet, his eyes shake in fear. She notices and greets him gently, but he's still disoriented. He throws one last taunt Utagi's way before slamming the door shut behind him. After gathering the mushrooms into plastic bags, Utagi apologizes for making the bet without Taemin's permission. She reassures him not to worry and tells him to take the competition at his own pace. Still shaken, Taemin admits that he can't afford to lose her. Utagi apologizes again, assuming he only said that because of the promise she made to Wataru. She repeats her apology, but Taemin brushes it aside. Instead, he apologizes for the humidity in his apartment and promises to buy a dehumidifier. Utagi tells him she'll do her best with the housework. They settle in the kitchen, where Utagi serves him a glass of iced tea. Taemin quietly shares that he's always wanted to be an idol and that he truly loves all of his fans. However, he's never experienced romantic love. Hesitantly, he asks her what love is. Caught off guard, Utagi nervously replies that she's only ever loved him, but even then her love for him isn't romantic. Suddenly, Taemin asks her to go to a festival with him. Utagi is confused. In her mind, every day already feels like a festival filled with Taemin. Taemin explains that in order to understand heartbreak, he first needs to understand love, and he thinks a summer festival might help. He goes on to say that summer festivals are the best places to experience romance. He adds that he wants to observe couples to learn what love looks like. But as an outsider like him, he feels he might be shut out by the atmosphere of people. Concerned, Utagi asks where he even got this idea. Taemin shows her a social media page run by a so-called love specialist. Taemin asks again if Utagi can go with him. Utagi immediately begins listing reasons why she can't. As she speaks, Taemin slowly steps closer. He looks at her seriously and tells her that she's the only one he can go with. One evening, Ori lounges on the balcony while the television drones on. A program featuring his father, Toshikazu, plays on screen, but Ori barely pays attention. Instead, his thoughts spiral toward how people perceive him. And then an annoying thought of Utagi appears. He spots Taemin outside, sneaking away in a ridiculous disguise. For some reason, the sight infuriates him. At the festival grounds, Utagi waits for Taemin. She doesn't notice Taemin watching her from a distance. He stops for a moment, taking in how she looks before nervously approaching. When he reaches her, Utagi recognizes him immediately, but questions the wig. Taemin explains that moving around with a paper bag on his head is difficult. Secretly, Utagi feels relieved that he showed up as Gloomihara. If he were Hatihara, she isn't sure her heart would survive the night. Neither of them notices Ori lurking nearby. Utagi suggests trying different games while waiting for the fireworks, but when she turns to speak to him, Taemin is gone. She soon finds him wandering off on his own, binoculars in hand, observing couples. Panicking, Utagi quickly positions herself to make sure no one reports his suspicious behavior. Taemin remarks that it feels unusually hot and wonders if the heat is coming from the couples. He looks like he wants to say something more, but Utagi immediately redirects his attention to a stall where a guy is desperately trying to win a prize for his girlfriend. Taemin lights up, convinced this must be an example of love. It doesn't take long before Utagi tries the game herself. She easily knocks down the snacks, all of them featuring face collaborations. Taemin cheers loudly, impressed. Utagi admits she purposely avoided hitting his face, adding that winning prizes like these is nothing compared to fighting for concert tickets. Taemin decides to try his luck as well, aiming to win the plush bunny. Unfortunately, he only manages to get a consolation prize. Completely defeated, he starts crying. Not only has he still failed to find love, but walking around in public is beginning to exhaust him. As he complains about how uncomfortable he feels, Utagi jumps in and declares that Taemin is a love sniper, so there's no way he should give up this easily. For some reason, her words work. Taemin slowly regains his confidence. From the bushes nearby, Ori peeks out, even more confused about the true nature of their relationship. Utagi then points out a couple in front of them feeding each other octopus balls. Intrigued, they decide to buy some for themselves. As Taemin looks at the food, he wonders if octopus balls might be love. Holding one of the balls, he suddenly offers to feed Utagi, unknowingly slipping straight into Hatihara mode. Ori stares in shock at how quickly things escalate. Utagi, meanwhile, faints on the spot, causing even more confusion for Ori. After Utagi recovers, they continue walking around the festival together. Unfortunately, Taemin stays in Hatihara mode, overwhelming Utagi to the point where she feels like she's living inside a dream. Eventually, he finally switches back to Gloomy-Hera. Utagi apologizes for fangirling too hard, but Taemin insists it's his fault. He excuses himself, saying he'll go buy drinks for them. Left alone, Utagi feels a wave of guilt wash over her. She worries that she ruined the festival. As she sits there, she starts questioning love itself, realizing she doesn't truly understand it either. Hidden nearby, Ori continues watching, still unable to make sense of their relationship. Putting on a mask, he approaches her while pretending to be a stranger. When Utagi looks up at him, Ori unexpectedly feels his heart flutter. At the same time, Taemin makes his way back, regret weighing on him for not being able to say what was really on his mind. Unaware of the masked stranger's true identity, Utagi gently explains that Taemin isn't her boyfriend. She turns Ori down kindly. Suddenly, Ori feels confused. Without thinking, he quietly tells her that she looks good in her outfit. Seeing the softer side of her leaves Ori feeling strangely unsettled. Suddenly, Taemin appears, telling him not to talk to Utagi because she is his girlfriend. Without waiting for a response, he grabs Utagi's hand and drags her away. After they put some distance between them, Utagi tries to calm Taemin down. She even lightly scolds him, pointing out that his face is clearly visible now. Instead of addressing her concern, Taemin blurts out that he feels the same way, that he also thinks she looks cute in her outfit. Utagi lets out a shocked sound. Taemin immediately takes it the wrong way and begins apologizing frantically, convinced he said something creepy. She tries to explain that she's actually happy, but he refuses to listen. Sometime later, Taemin goes back to wearing his disguise. Now fully aware of his earlier behavior, he sinks even deeper into self-loathing. Utagi grows increasingly worried and decides she can't let things continue like this. So she decides to try to cheer him up. Taemin admits that he doesn't even know if love truly exists. He's never been good at going out with people, and trying to imitate others only makes him more uncomfortable. Utagi recalls how he once mentioned envying a normal life. Instead of trying to copy what other people do, she suggests that Taemin treat today as a proper day off. She tells him that they should enjoy the festival as friends, rather than obsessing over his search for love. The idea of being friends with her immediately brings Taemin to tears. He admits that the only friend he's ever had was a stain on his wall. Realizing he's been rushing himself, he compares his situation to a caterpillar trying to fly. That metaphor instantly triggers Utagi, who eerily corrects him and insists he should call himself a fallen angel instead. After agreeing with her dramatic revision, they continue enjoying the festival together. Eventually, Taemin shyly asks if he can change the honorific he uses for her name. Utagi feels a little awkward about the request. She explains that her friends usually call her Utagi, but since Taemin is older, he can just call her by her last name without any honorifics. Taemin feels that he doesn't deserve the honor of using her name at all, going so far as to suggest that she should call him Garbage Hara. Utagi immediately refuses and instead asks if she can add an upperclassman title to his name. When she calls out to him, Taemin freezes for a moment, then decides to try calling her by her name in return. Watching him fumble, Utagi gently tells him that he can call her whatever he wants. After all, when he turns into Hatihara, he calls her Utagi without any trouble. Utagi then invites him to join the festival dance. Soon they find themselves moving along with everyone else. They wander through the stalls, sampling whatever catches their interest. They stop to drink the soda Taemin bought earlier. As Utagi watches him, she quietly cherishes the moment. Seeing Taemin smile so freely, Utagi wonders if this is what he would be like if he were just a regular student. Meanwhile, Ori decides to call it a night and heads home. Utagi soon returns to Tammen's side, holding out a popsicle for him. He notices that it's already starting to melt and immediately leans in to take a bite. The sudden closeness makes Utagi's heart skip. Utagi suggests they move somewhere quieter to watch the fireworks. She leads him to a deserted playground, and after checking their surroundings, they decide it's safe for him to remove the wig. They spread out a picnic mat and sit down, casually talking about the past as they wait. Their conversation drifts to his pink hair. Tammen admits that he dyed it to give himself confidence and as a reminder that whenever he stands in front of people, he's an idol. Utagi fondly recalls the first time he appeared with pink hair at a talent show, and how every girl instantly fell in love with him. Before long, pink itself became synonymous with love. Tammen adds that since his fans associate him with love, he feels pressure to live up to it. Utagi counters that he's working hard and people love him for that, not just his hair. When Tammen insults himself again, Utagi firmly declares that he's a god. He begins explaining that he isn't special like Ori. Working hard is probably the only admirable thing about him. And even that is because of his fans. He wants to work hard for them, wanting all of them to smile. He refuses to show an embarrassing side of himself because he wants people to like him. Utagi suddenly realizes that what he's describing sounds a lot like love. She explains that love doesn't have to be directed at just one person. For Tammen, it's his love for his fans that drives him. He wants them to be happy, and he works hard for their sake. Just then, the fireworks finally begin. But instead of watching the sky, Tammen finds himself looking at Utagi. Remembering everything she's done for him, he decides to try saying her name again. This time, instead of anything she suggested, he chooses to give her the nickname Uda. The nickname stuns Utagi. It's new and coming directly from her idol. Tammen feels warmth bloom in his chest and asks if what he's feeling now is love. Utagi quickly explains that he's probably confused because he's never had friends before. Tammen tells her confidently that he thinks he can win the second round. Utagi asks what the second round is. During the show, she learns it's a water race and Tammen wins effortlessly. As she watches him, she briefly wonders again what the point of his search for love really was. But when Tammen turns to his fans, beams at them, the thought disappears. Utagi is busy cutting out cards of Tammen, treating it like a ritual as she makes a wish for his victory. In the middle of it, she suddenly receives a call from her boss. Apparently, someone has specifically requested her cleaning services tomorrow. The following day, Utagi finds herself standing in front of a much larger house than she expected. Ori opens the door and she immediately freezes. She points out that their deal was only supposed to apply if he won the center position. Ori, already irritated by her attitude, doesn't bother explaining. He grabs her wrist and pulls her inside. He reveals that the house actually belongs to his parents. Without wasting any time, Ori asks her directly if she and Tammen are dating. For a split second, the image of herself dating Tammen flashes through Utagi's mind, but she instantly rejects the thought, growing annoyed at herself. To her, Tammen isn't someone she can keep for herself since he belongs to all his fans. Her unwavering dedication visibly unsettles Ori. Deciding he's heard enough, he tells her to leave, saying he already got the answer he wanted. As Utagi starts complaining about his bizarre way of cornering her for an answer, Ori suddenly leans heavily against her. That's when she realizes he's burning up. When Ori wakes up later, he immediately snaps at Utagi for casually carrying him to bed and placing a cooling patch on his forehead. Utagi responds with an unimpressed stare, reminding herself that during the second round of the show, Ori and Tammen actually tied for first place, meaning Ori still has a real chance of winning the entire competition. Curious, Utagi finally asks why he went through the trouble of booking her cleaning services just to confirm her relationship status with Tammen. Embarrassed, Ori admits that he had no other way of contacting her. Utagi casually informs him that she already cleaned the house while he was passed out. After getting over his shock, Ori asks her to come back again tomorrow. She flatly tells him to book her properly through her company. After leaving, Utagi heads toward Tammen's place. As she walks, a wave of nervousness hits her. The last time she saw him was during the summer festival, when she tried to help him search for love. As Utagi throws herself into her work as usual, Tammen seems more depressed than normal. Eventually, he hesitantly asks if she happened to go to Ori's house. To explain, he shows her a message on his phone where Ori had attached a photo of Utagi's back. Since hiding the truth would only make things worse, Utagi admits that Ori also booked her for tomorrow, but she quickly assures Tammen not to worry about it. Tammen asks if Ori is sick, since he didn't show up for practice that day. Apparently, Ori told the group he wanted to take time off, but Tammen believes he simply doesn't want to show his weak side to anyone. Utagi wonders if Ori's personality is somewhat akin to that of a wild animal. In truth, Tammen is genuinely worried about him, so Utagi reassures him that everything should be fine and that she'll be visiting Ori tomorrow. The following day, Utagi checks Ori's temperature and immediately notices that it's even higher than before. Ori weakly argues that it isn't, clearly irritated, and snaps when Utagi mentions that Taman is worried about him. Utagi leaves his room to continue with the rest of the housework, wondering why Taman and Ori can't seem to get along. Suddenly, the doorbell rings and she finds Taman there. Even Ori drags himself out of bed to see who it could be. Taman explains that he came to visit Ori and brought a pack of sugar, knowing that Ori likes sweets. Ori immediately insults him and orders him to go home. When Taman starts to cower, Utagi steps between them and scolds Ori for scolding Taman. Ori clicks his tongue and questions Taman since he rarely approaches him like this. Taman honestly admits that he was worried since Ori never misses practice, even when he is sick. Since Taman insists that he came specifically for Ori's sake, Ori decides to put him to work instead, ordering him to help Utagi with the chores. Taman and Utagi are then made to clean the pool. Both of them are surprised that such a thing is even part of the house. As they scrub the tiles, Utagi asks Taman what he really feels about Ori. Taman admits that he's scared of him, and that he's convinced Ori hates him. He then tells her about the first time they met. When Taman first arrived in Tokyo, he was completely lost. It was Ori who approached him, helped him find his way to the audition room, and took him under his wing. When Taman unexpectedly won, Ori was right there, clapping for him. But once the cameras stopped rolling, Taman saw Ori backstage crying over his loss. From that moment on, Taman felt like he had stolen the position from him. Because of that guilt, he decided he would simply accept whatever Ori told him to do. In the past, if there had been an opportunity to give up the center position to Ori, Taman would have taken it without hesitation. But now he feels like he should compete for the spot fairly against Ori. Utagi feels her soul ascend to heaven upon witnessing how determined Taman is. Suddenly, Ori sprays him with water from the hose. Taman is shocked but recovers and tells Ori that he should get better soon, then promises that he will work his hardest to properly defeat him. Ori actually smiles at the challenge. Though his reply is still there with insults, he seems genuinely pleased at the thought of finally beating Taman fair and square. He starts chasing Taman around with the hose, the two of them so caught up in their arguments that they completely forget about Utagi. Over the next few days, the battle for the center position continues. Ori and Taman consistently give it their all in every challenge. The other members also put up a strong fight, but it gradually becomes clear that Taman is pulling ahead. Fans pour their energy into supporting their favorite members, and Utagi and her friends make sure to cheer for Taman with videos. At last, the final stream of the competition is just around the corner. The challenge will end with a live concert of Face singing their new single. After finishing her work at Taman's apartment, Utagi heads home, only to bump into Ori just before she can step into the elevator. At the same time, Taman realizes that Utagi forgot her fan. Ori awkwardly thanks Utagi for taking care of him. When she responds kindly, he grows more comfortable talking to her, and the two quickly slip into a playful argument, with Utagi defending Taman. But remembering that Taman wants Ori to compete with him sincerely, she cuts the argument short and tells Ori to give it his all. Unbeknownst to her, Taman overhears the exchange, having hidden himself behind some decorations. As Utagi reaches out to press the elevator button, Ori suddenly changes the terms of their deal. If he wins the center position, Utagi has to become his fan. Utagi happily counters that if Taman wins, then Ori has to become Taman's fan instead. She immediately hands him a Taman flyer, much to Ori's irritation. Taman retreats to his room, suddenly overwhelmed by the fear that he might lose Utagi. The next day, he stays behind after everyone else has left, continuing to practice his singing alone. At home, exhaustion overtakes him and he falls asleep on the couch. When Utagi arrives and sees him like that, she can't help but admire his beauty, especially since she used to see him depressed in the corner upon her arrival. To her, everyone else seems pixelated in comparison to him. As she steps closer, she notices that his complexion looks paler than usual. Her gaze drifts to the table, where she sees the new song spread out, covered in notes and annotations. She gently drapes a blanket over him and begins tidying up. Taman stirs awake and catches sight of Utagi's back. Still half asleep, he suddenly acts on impulse and reaches out, pulling her into a loose embrace. Utagi freezes at the sudden weight against her back, refusing to believe that it's really Taman. Forcing herself back to reality, she stands up, allowing him to slide off her. Looking back at his sleeping form, she silently promises to cheer for him with everything she has. When Utagi returns home, she continues her rituals, determined to ensure Taman's victory. On the final day of the competition, the members of Face gather in the waiting room, casually discussing how rankings can change everything. Taman enters later than usual, surprising everyone. What shocks them even more is how hoarse his voice sounds. Soon after, Ori arrives in the same condition, leaving the members stunned. Once preparations are complete, they take their places on stage. The staff announces that the final round will be a solo singing challenge, with each member performing the song individually. Taman is up first. As he takes the microphone, Utagi and her friends watch with hopeful expressions. When Taemin begins to sing, his entire demeanor shifts as he tries to embody the mood of the song. One by one, the other members follow, each giving it their all. After everyone finishes, Utagi's friends are confident that Taemin has secured the win. Utagi, however, feels uneasy about his performance. The members are then called into a meeting room for a briefing since they will soon be performing the song Live with the newly chosen center. Izumi scolds both Taemin and Ori for delivering subpar performances during the show. While she believes their star power will still persuade fans, she makes it clear that neither Taemin nor Ori perform at their best. Utagi and her friends go shopping for fan materials for the concert. While her friends are cheerful and confident, Utagi can't shake her anxiety over the competition's results and how Taemin is handling the pressure. She feels conflicted. Before becoming his housekeeper, she had never worried about Taemin like this. Now her thoughts are constantly filled with questions about whether he's eating properly, sleeping enough, and taking care of himself. After practice, Taemin and Ori stay behind while the rest of the members head home. The two talk quietly about how they both ended up delivering poor performances, despite putting in long hours of practice. In Ori's case, he bitterly jokes that it's simply in his nature to fail at the most crucial moments. When Ori asks why Taemin pushed himself so hard this time, Taemin admits that he was scared of failing. He's terrified that if he loses, his fans will abandon him. At first, Ori bluntly tells him that his reason is gross, but after a pause, his tone softens. He tells Taemin not to worry so much. Some fans will definitely leave, but there will always be die-hard fans who stay no matter what. Taemin understands that Ori is right, yet his heart still feels heavy. What truly scares him isn't losing fans in general, but losing Utagi. His thoughts keep circling back to her, and he can't shake them off. As Taemin sinks deeper into his gloomy spiral, Ori shoots him an irritated look. To announce the new center, the label hosts a grand concert. Utagi is there with her friends, nervously awaiting both the results and the new performance. The fans erupt into screams as the announcer hypes up the crowd. Utagi presses her hands together, silently praying that Taemin can keep his position. Suddenly, silhouettes appear on stage. As the lights come up and the song begins, the crowd gasps once the first line delivered is by Kido, indicating that he is the new center. Kido's fans explode with excitement, thrilled by his victory, while others fall into disappointed murmurs, having hoped their own bias would win. Utagi feels her vision blur as tears spill down her cheeks. She knows how much Taemin agonized over this competition. Still, she refuses to stop cheering. Suddenly filled with determination, she lifts her banner into the air, one that boldly declares that Taemin will always be her center. Mid-performance, Taemin spots her in the crowd and manages to read the words. As he performs, his gaze returns to Utagi again, and his eyes immediately well up with tears. This time, he doesn't hold them back. As he continues singing, his tears fall freely, overwhelmed by the intensity of the song, the weight of the loss, and the quiet reassurance that someone still believes in him. After the competition results, Utagi begins packing away the Taemin banners she had prepared for her victory ritual. In her mind, she quietly congratulates him for still giving a wonderful performance. She recalls the concert and how incredible everyone was on stage. Even through his tears, Taemin had powered through the song with everything he had. Despite the crowd's mixed reactions to the announcement of the new center, once the boys finished performing, they were met with thunderous applause. Utagi remembers noticing how many people in the audience had been moved by Taemin's expression in the song, even though it was different from his usual persona. She also notes that Taemin's fan base had noticeably grown after that performance, while Ori remained firmly in second place. Looking at her Taemin posture, Utagi feels proud of how much he has grown and offers him a silent prayer. Just then, her family dog Pochi barks, so Utagi decides to take him out for a walk. They stroll calmly through the streets until Pochi suddenly pulls her in the direction of Taemin's apartment. When she looks up, she freezes in shock because Taemin is standing on the roof, looking as though he might jump. Heart-pounding, Utagi quickly ties Pochi to a nearby post and rushes into the building, grabbing Taemin and pulling him back with all her strength. She scolds him harshly for nearly harming himself. Taemin apologizes but tells her not to stop him. He insists that he doesn't deserve to live and that he would rather be reincarnated as something that brings happiness, like a hamster. Trying to snap him out of it, Utagi immediately counters that being a hamster is actually a tough life. Her explanation only makes Taemin spiral further since he is now convinced that even reincarnation offers him no hope. Utagi leads him to a safer spot on the roof and hands him a cup of tea as she tries to understand what pushed him this far. She throws out possible reasons such as Taemin finally realizing how handsome he is or how incredible his voice is, and the shock was too much for him to handle. She misses the mark entirely, but her words finally make Taemin open up. He admits that what truly hurts is losing the center position. He feels as though he betrayed everyone who supported him and that he failed them when it mattered most. Deep down, he still wants to stand at the center and sing. Utagi immediately tells him not to blame himself. His performance was amazing and fans will never forget it. As one of his fans, she firmly believes that no matter what the official results say, Taemin will always be the center in their hearts. As Utagi continues trying to cheer him up, Taemin suddenly asks about Ori. He admits that part of him thought Utagi might have been rooting for Ori instead. He confesses that he feels conflicted, since Utagi seems to get along with Ori, and she even went to his house without telling him. He is anxious that Ori might become her new bias. Sensing that Taemin has been holding all of this in, Utagi gently tells him that it's okay to vent everything he's feeling. To her surprise, Taemin suddenly stands up and grabs her wrist. With a serious voice, he tells her not to switch her bias to Ori. Realizing how harsh he sounds, he quickly falters and admits that he doesn't even understand his own feelings. Still, his grip tightens as he tries to explain the storm of emotions that rushes through him whenever he imagines Ori and Utagi together. Utagi feels her heart pounding wildly. Taemin desperately promises that he will make her happy if she stays his fan, even saying that he would lick her shoes or eat her garbage for her. Overwhelmed, Utagi pulls her hand away. She tries to reason with him, saying that he is probably still shaken by the competition results and hasn't had time to process everything properly. She studies his face for a moment before gently urging him to go back inside and rest. As she turns toward the entrance, Taemin suddenly wraps his arms around her. He asks her to promise that she will always support only him, even when he's useless. He adds that he feels like he cannot live if Utagi stops being his fan. Utagi wonders for a split second if this counts as a threat, but the thought fades as she realizes how tightly and sincerely he is holding her. Softly, she promises that she will always support him. Relieved, Taemin pulls her even closer, making Utagi blush intensely. After a moment, he releases her and apologizes again for acting so rashly. Utagi, flustered, can't tell whether that hug came from Gloomy Hera or Haughty Hera. Taemin then notices his forgotten tea and moves to finish it. It takes Utagi a second to fully process what just happened. Then the realization hits her all at once and she dramatically explodes from the shock of his touch. Taemin panics and desperately tries to revive her. At the same time, Kido hears the commotion from below and begins making his way up the stairs. As Taemin frantically shakes Utagi, her soul dramatically ascends toward the heavens, solemnly promising to watch over him from above. Kido appears at the doorway, briefly takes in the chaotic scene, and decides it is absolutely not worth getting involved and leaves them. The next day, Face records an interview to thank their fans for the success of their show and the overwhelming support for their new single. The interviewer first turns to Kido, asking how he feels about becoming the new center. Kido casually remarks that he feels lucky because the tea leaf in his cup was standing upright that morning. The interviewer immediately corrects him, and Natsuki scolds him, making the studio audience laugh. Kido speaks with a kind tone about his responsibility as both leader and center. He admits that he feels nervous but is grateful for the opportunity. He adds that he plans to consult Taemin on how to keep fans happy. The interviewer then shifts to Taemin, asking how he feels about stepping down. Taemin honestly admits that he is frustrated but emphasizes that whatever position he is given, he will treat it with equal importance. He reassures fans that Kido will make a wonderful center, noting that although Kido can be clumsy, he is an incredible singer who always rises to the occasion. Taemin promises his fans that he will show them a new side of himself moving forward. Watching from home, Utagi feels her heart flutter as she beams at the screen. The interview wraps up with Face greeting their fans before heading off set. The interviewer expresses excitement for the upcoming single and reveals the new key visuals. Outside the dressing room, the members remain polite and perfectly idol-like as they bow to the staff. Meanwhile, Kido and Ori have already dropped their stage personas in their dressing room. Kido snickers about how easily people can be manipulated. Ori calls his attitude disgusting, but Kido shoots the insult right back. Ori sharply counters that he genuinely cares about his fans. With the others still outside, Kido suddenly asks Ori if he knows anything about the girl Taemin was with on the roof. Ori visibly panics and tries to pretend he knows nothing about Utagi, but Kido sees through him immediately. Realizing there is no point in lying, Ori admits that Utagi is someone he intends to win over. He explains that she is Taemin's housekeeper and a die-hard Taemin fan. A few days later, Utagi arrives at Taemin's apartment for her regular cleaning duties. She hopes he has recovered from the shock of losing his center position. When she steps inside, she finds Taemin sprawled on the floor, completely burned. She drags him to clean him up. Once restored, Taemin explains that low-gluten flour exploded on him. Utagi, however, is far more fixated on the fact that he is wearing an apron. After gushing over it, she asks why he is wearing it, and Taemin shyly admits that he is trying to bake her a cake as a thank-you gift for her. Utagi immediately panics. She tells him that he doesn't need to do something like this for her, and he should focus on honing his skills instead. Taemin sprouts mushrooms, interpreting her words as meaning she doesn't want anything made by him. Alarmed, Utagi blurts out that even a cake made of clay would taste like chocolate if Tammin made it. The ridiculous declaration instantly revives him. Tammin returns to his baking with renewed determination. Utagi watches him nervously. She offers to help, but Tammin firmly insists on doing it himself. She can tell he is actually following the correct steps, but he is unbelievably clumsy. At one point, he nearly burns himself while boiling butter. Unable to stay silent, Utagi asks if she can at least stand nearby and watch closely. With that, Tammin continues preparing the cake. Utagi watches, and he seems to be doing a lot better now. She remembers she made a cake for him on his birthday. When she asks if he's having fun, Tammin shares that fans always make him cakes during his birthdays, but he never gets to eat any of them. Still, it makes him happy to receive one. Utagi cries tears of joy, feeling certain that all his fans would be happy to hear that since they poured their love into making those cakes. At the mention of love, Tammin decides to do the same with the cake he is baking for Utagi, and his stirring becomes faster than before. Utagi begins to think he is adorable, but as she observes him more, Tammin seems to have a darker tone as he speaks, thinking about Utagi possibly leaving him. He wants all of Utagi's attention solely on him. Slowly, she backs away as Tammin becomes cheery and promises to make sure the cake is delicious. As the cake bakes, Utagi observes Tammin reading. She assumes he has returned to his usual self, but something still feels off. The oven rings, and in front of them is something that resembles a cake. Despite its appearance, the fact that it came from Tammin makes her happy. Tammin urges her to take a bite, saying he also bought some cola for them to share. However, Utagi refuses because she is on the clock. She assures him she'll have some before she leaves. As she moves toward the bathroom, Tammin, using his Hadihara persona, stops her and urges her to at least take a small bite because he poured his love into it. Unable to resist, she tentatively accepts the piece he offers, but because she is so excited, she is unable to taste the flavor and explodes on the spot. Eventually, she finishes her duties and sits down to have some cake and cola with Tammin. She takes the first bite and, keenly aware of Tammin staring at her, comments that it tastes great. Tammin's eyes light up and he prepares to eat a slice as well. Utagi gives him an uneasy look since Tammin has been vying for her undivided attention lately. While it was cute at first, it is increasingly becoming scary. She wonders if Tammin deliberately turned into Hadihara earlier to make her stay, since this isn't the first time he has done that around her. She knows he can easily switch if he really wants to. She realizes how much control Tammin has over her, and that realization scares her. She quickly finishes her slice and announces that she will leave. She washes her plate, feeling uneasy about the fact that Tammin has been using his idol persona to get what he wants from her. He is also becoming too dependent on her, which she cannot allow to continue. She begins packing the cake and decides that she needs to find a way to put some distance between them. Tammin then notices cream on her face and moves to wipe it off, but Utagi refuses, saying she can handle it herself. He becomes Hadihara again, and Utagi finds herself unable to deny him when he leans in to lick the cream off her face. She is starstruck for a moment before scolding him for giving her too much fan service. He backs off slightly before telling Utagi that he's pretty sure she didn't mind because she thinks he is handsome. Utagi stares in shock, realizing just how possessive he has become. One day, Utagi finds herself worrying that she might disappoint her fellow fans if Tammin were to focus only on her. On her way to meet her friend, Yuina, she recalls what happened the day before. After Tammin apologized, she gave him a proper scolding and made him recite his goals. Once he finished, she hurriedly left his apartment. While she is always happy to receive fan service, she believes it isn't something he should give out so casually. She begins to imagine Tammin confessing to her, so she hits herself on the head with her fan to chase away the fantasy. She convinces herself that Tammin is only being clingy because he is no longer the center. She thinks about the people in Tammin's life, and all of them seem unapproachable. Because of that, she believes he must have a hard time talking about his feelings. Suddenly, she receives a message from Yuina informing her that she has gotten sick and won't be able to meet up today. Since her plans are canceled, she decides to walk around town by herself. She spots Rintaro, another Face member, right in front of her, enthusiastically fangirling over Kankyo merchandise he managed to obtain. Because of his disguise and his behavior, which is completely different from his public image, Utagi fails to recognize him. As he rushes off to secure more limited edition items, Utagi can't help but smile, understanding his obsession since she feels the same way about Face merchandise. She then notices Tammin nearby in his usual disguise. When he sees her, he approaches while panting, clearly happy to have run into her. As he gets closer, Utagi begins to panic. She worries he might switch into Hadihara to get what he wants from her, so she suddenly bolts. Tammin weakly tries to run after her, but then, with a sudden burst of energy, he picks up speed. However, he ends up tripping over a rock and falling to the ground. Instead of getting back up right away, Tammin grows visibly weak from the heat. She helps him sit down on a nearby park bench and hands him some water, scolding him for wearing clothes that aren't suited for the hot weather. She learns that Tammin is currently on break. He shows her some strange Kappa toys he managed to get from a gashapon machine, and Utagi recognizes them as the same toys he keeps in his bathroom. Utagi feels happy knowing that Taman is buying things he genuinely enjoys. Taman admits that earlier, he only wanted to give her the toys because he get duplicates, so he was surprised when she suddenly ran away from him. Utagi defends herself by saying that he seemed taller and that his outfit looks scary. As she says this, she realizes she is crossing the line as a fan. She decides to leave, and when Taman tries to invite her to lunch, she flatly refuses. Taman feels deeply hurt by the rejection, so Utagi immediately runs back and insists that he deserves nothing but love and praise. She admits that she had originally planned to visit all the places he had previously been. This makes Taman insist on tagging along, even switching into Hatihara to persuade her. Overwhelmed by the sudden fan service, Utagi passes out, and Taman carries her to their first destination. They arrive in front of a sandwich place with a surprisingly long line. Taman is shocked to learn that the business picked up after Face had a shoot there. Utagi explains that eating a sandwich from the cart is like reliving a part of his existence. Taman looks at the crowd and notices that some of the girls look like they've ascended to heaven just from tasting the sandwich. Utagi explains that they are worshipping the very ground he once stood on. Taman doesn't fully understand, but he feels happy knowing he has made people happy. Unbeknownst to them, Kato snaps a photo of them. Inspired, Taman declares that he is willing to crawl to the next location if it will make his fans happy. Utagi thinks it is both a wonderful and terrible idea. They order sandwiches and drinks for themselves for lunch. Utagi decorates their table with small acrylic Taman standees and starts taking photos. Taman asks if it is really that fun to take pictures of his merchandise, and Utagi happily replies that it is the most fun thing in the world. Transforming into Hatihara, he poses with the standees and tells Utagi that she can take as many photos as she wants. The sight of Taman with his own merchandise is too much for her, and she evaporates on the spot until nothing remains. Next, they head to a music store. Utagi is delighted to see that the Face section has grown larger. She picks up a CD to admire it, but Taman, still in Hatihara mode, stands too close to her, causing her to explode. They also visit a novelty shop, where Taman ends up playing with a pair of cat ears that he places on Utagi's head. When he asks if she's having fun, Utagi's heart swells as she admits that she is, only to pass out again. Taman happily carries her to their next destination. When she recovers, she sulks, feeling guilty that Taman is once again giving her free fan service. She then remembers she has 2 tickets to the Face movie. He immediately brightens at the idea of watching a movie with her. The film opens with a flashy introduction of the members. Taman sighs when he realizes the movie focuses on how he lost his center position. At first, Utagi feels slightly guilty for bringing him to see it. However, as the movie progresses, she finds herself completely drawn in. Taman quietly watches her watching him. By the time the concert scene plays, Utagi is mesmerized. Taman notices the clear admiration on her face and turns to the screen to see what has captivated her. He sees himself crying during their recent concert. By the end of the movie, Utagi is in tears from how moving it was. She tries to convince Taman that the film truly shows how valuable he is. Taman admits he didn't pay much attention because it was too painful for him to watch, but he tells her that she looked happiest while watching it. When Utagi says it's because she loves Taman, he replies that he wants to watch the movie again. He adds that if he achieves his goals, he hopes it will make her as happy as the film did. Utagi exclaims that she'll be the happiest girl in the world if that happens, which earns her a small smile from him. She feels relieved seeing that smile and is surprised when Taman hands her the rare Kappa toy before he runs off. Back at work, Taman poses professionally in front of the camera. Wataru is relieved, as he had been worried Taman wouldn't recover from his slump. Instead, he seems to be performing better than ever. Wataru admits he was shocked when Taman readily accepted the job offer. Normally, he would hesitate and need convincing. Wataru suspects Utagi played a role in this change and silently thanks her. The next day, Utagi arrives at the apartment complex for work. She rings the intercom, but Taman doesn't answer. Instead, the gate opens to reveal Kato, who appears to know that she is Taman's housekeeper. Utagi recalls what she knows about him. Many Taman fans are also fans of Kato because of the support he openly shows Taman. He is widely loved for his kind and reliable personality as Face's leader. He invites her to his apartment, explaining that Taman and Wari are currently there, and he wants to thank her for taking care of them. Since she cannot enter Taman's apartment, she accepts the invitation. She is surprised to learn that Kato lives next door. When she steps inside, she notices the room is dimly lit and spots Ori's and Taman's slippers at the entrance. Kato's apartment feels traditional and well kept, with several slogans displayed around the room. She finds herself seated between Ori and Taman, who both look slightly surprised to see her. Kato reveals that he was the one who gathered them because he wants to discuss something important. He shows them a photo of Utagi and Taman together. She quickly tries to explain herself, saying it was purely a coincidence. Tammin backs her up, though he slowly adds that he was happy to spend the day with her. Irritated, Ori adds that he has already invited Utagi to his parents' house twice. Kato gives them a disapproving look, clearly annoyed by how affected they seem to be by Utagi. In a stern tone, he reminds them of their goal to go global and how FACE has a strong chance of achieving it, considering how quickly they became a mainstream group right after debuting. Utagi feels inspired by his determination and apparent care for the group, but that feeling quickly fades when Kato starts talking about how much money they will make. He then states that Ori and Tammin are their billboard members and openly expresses his dislike of Utagi's interference. He even calls her an evil fan, shocking her with his harshness. Kato continues to saying that fans should remember their place as nourishment for their idols. That comment prompts Ori to insult him. As the two begin arguing, Tammin meekly asks Kato to stop speaking badly about his fans, despite his trembling hands. This time, even Ori sides with Tammin, since he genuinely cares about the fans as well. Ori and Kato's argument escalates into a fight, leaving Tammin crying to the side. Watching this, Utagi realizes that the members may not actually be close friends. Kato then begins expressing his general dislike of idol fans. To him, they are the worst because they fight among themselves. He even admits that he finds them frightening, claiming idol fans have stalking abilities that rival the CIA. Utagi recalls that Kato's own fans are known for being aggressive, and he readily agrees. He then points at her and tells Ori and Tammin that she is clearly invading their private lives and causing them to underperform, reminding them of how poorly they did during the center competition. Kato turns back to Utagi and firmly asks her to stop seeing Tammin and Ori. Utagi and Tammin are both shocked by the request. Ori is quick to voice his disapproval, but Kato states that it is an order. Utagi actually understands where Kato is coming from. Since Tammin lost the center position, it is natural for him to suspect that Utagi may have contributed. As a regular fan, Kato's demand makes sense, and she would normally back off. However, she knows that Tammin needs her. Recently, he has been slowly improving and has been able to focus more on his work. She tells Kato that she is fully aware she is an otaku and often questions whether she should even be standing next to Tammin. However, she argues that she is Tammin's housekeeper, and as his housekeeper, she does whatever he needs so that he can properly function as an idol. She realizes how weak her reasoning sounds and hurriedly adds that Wataru was the one who assigned her the position. Kato is visibly shocked that Wataru approved of this arrangement and even more stunned when Wataru suddenly appears, loudly calling Utagi's name. Wataru explains that he knew she was there because her cheering fan was outside Kato's door. Then he announces that he wants Utagi to join FACE's summer training camp. Still confused, Kato demands an explanation. Wataru clarifies that since Utagi already knows the members' true personalities, it is safer to bring her along rather than hire a stranger who might leak their real selves to the public. Utagi immediately tries to decline, but Wataru insists, emphasizing the benefits if she agrees to join them. Seeing Utagi's hesitation, Tammin attempts to defend her, but Wataru counters that Tammin would never be able to relax if someone else were hired. Kato, after thinking it over, admits that Utagi might indeed be the safest option. However, he coldly adds that he will be the one to expose her true colors. Ori and Tammin both state that they would rather have her attend the camp than a stranger. Wataru promises to send her the details later before rushing off. The boys begin reminding her about the things she needs to prepare for the camp, while Utagi quietly fears what this summer might bring. One day, FACE is filming their trip to the beach. Everyone's fake personalities are on full display for the camera, and they act friendly toward one another. Tammin comments on how especially muscular Rintaro is, prompting Rintaro to flex for the camera. Not wanting to lose, Tammin starts showing off his muscles as well. Kato is amused by their energy before calling them together to perform their greeting cheer for the camera. Behind them, the staff bus follows, monitoring how filming inside FACE's car is progressing. Yu, the director, voices how impressed he is with everything without a script. Wataru nervously agrees with Yu as Utagi overhears the conversation. Utagi begins to feel uneasy around Yu when he expresses interest in capturing Tammin, slipping up during the trip. As Wataru tries to reason with him, Utagi realizes that out of the 15 staff members brought along, only she and Wataru know the members' true personalities. She grows anxious about whether Tammin can maintain his Hotihara persona for the entire trip. Meanwhile, inside the car, the FACE members continue flawlessly performing their fake personas. When they arrive at the beach, the crew decides to have the boys play volleyball. Utagi desperately tries not to watch Tammin, convincing herself that her eyes are unworthy of seeing him like this in real life instead of through a screen. However, her curiosity wins and she keeps taking peeks at him. At one point, the volleyball flies toward her and she instinctively catches it. This prompts Tammin to approach her to retrieve it. Utagi begins silently reciting tongue twisters in her head to maintain a professional composure. She manages to hand the ball back to him politely. As Tammin turns and returns to the game, she feels Kato's gaze on her. She reminds herself that this trip is her only chance to convince Kato that she poses no threat to Tammin. Soon after, the staff calls her away to help with something, and Ori finds himself watching her leave. Ori feels irritated after noticing that Utagi has been looking only at Tammin since they arrived. When the cameras start rolling, he delivers a powerful spike toward Tammin. Tammin misses it, and Ori realizes he's beginning to feel jealous of the attention Tammin is receiving from Utagi. By sunset, everyone is informed that the next shoot will begin at 6 p.m. Face excuses themselves to rest, and Wataru tells Utagi to check on them. Utagi finds herself standing in front of one of the rooms, only to be greeted by a visibly livid Kato. From inside, she can hear Tammin and Ori arguing. Kato explains that Tammin is refusing to leave the room, and he was just in the middle of scolding them. He turns his attention back to them, reminding them that this is only the first day of filming. Utagi steps in to stop Ori from escalating the fight, reasoning that it must be difficult for Tammin to constantly maintain a smile. The argument pauses when Utagi suddenly pulls out her linked-up cheering fan that tells Tammin to smile. Surprisingly, it works. Tammin instantly switches back into Harihara mode and even encourages Ori and Kato to switch back as well. Almost immediately, the three of them return acting like close friends. Filming resumes and Face is shown grilling food together, casually chatting about the food. As Utagi walks by, she feels relieved seeing that everything appears to be going smoothly. When filming wraps up for the day, Utagi helps her on the set. Ori watches her from a distance and notices that she occasionally pauses to smile at Tammin. Utagi finally has a moment to herself. However, she receives a call from Ori telling her to come to their room to retrieve her cheering fan. When she arrives, Ori is stunned to see her wearing a yukata. Utagi apologizes but points out that it is his fault for rushing her. Ori tries to hide his embarrassment as he hands her the fan. Utagi apologizes for leaving it behind, explaining that she brought too many and didn't realize one was missing. He finds her admiration for Tammin a bit overwhelming, but Utagi fails to understand why he seems bothered by it. Suddenly, they hear Kato's voice approaching. Ori grabs Utagi's wrist and pulls her aside to hide her. When Kato opens the door, he only sees Ori lying in bed, asking for privacy. Satisfied, Kato decides to leave. Once he is gone, Ori lifts the covers, revealing that he had hidden Utagi. He explains that Kato would have scolded her if he had caught her in their room. He then surprises Utagi by lightly patting her head and asking why she couldn't be his fan instead. When Utagi questions whether he is jealous of her love for Tammin, Ori quickly denies being bothered by Tammin specifically. Taking the opportunity to explain her love for Tammin, she pulls out a thick notebook and explains that it contains a sutra she wrote detailing her dedication to Tammin. Before she can read, Ori promptly kicks her out of the room. As she walks back to her room, she crosses paths with Tammin, who looks like a mummy after wrapping his face in towels. He explains that he is uncomfortable bathing with the others and was worried someone might discover him without his idol persona. Utagi smiles fondly at his behavior. Only then does Tammin realize she is wearing a yukata, and he feels himself grow giddy. Because his face is still wrapped, Utagi assumes he is embarrassed by her underdressed appearance. She quickly explains that Ori had called her to retrieve her cheering fan. At the mention of Ori's name, a flash of jealousy crosses Tammin's mind. Utagi senses the shift in his mood and quickly reassures him that she only went to pick up the fan. He manages to calm down and properly apologizes to her. He admits that he was selfish when he said he hoped she would attend the training camp instead of then hiring someone new. Tammin confesses that he is worried about whether she is handling everything well, especially since Ori and Kato might be making things difficult for her. Utagi gives him a determined smile and tells him that she is completely fine and that he only needs to worry about himself. With that, she walks away, leaving Tammin staring at her retreating figure. The next morning, filming begins during breakfast. The members discuss the benefits of eating fish bones and how some types of fish have softer, more edible bones than others. Tammin casually puts a fish bone in his mouth, prompting Ori to scold him since that particular bone isn't safe to eat. They wrap up the first segment of filming and move to the next location. The next shoot involves Face visiting a shrine and drawing fortunes. Utagi runs around the set, handling various tasks. The following location is a row of food stalls near the shrine, where the members sample different snacks and interact playfully on camera. As Utagi carries equipment and supplies between locations, she occasionally feels Kato's gaze lingering on her. By evening, the crew announces that they will film a Test of Courage segment. While Face is being briefed, Utagi volunteers to check some equipment in the storeroom. As she leaves, Tammin's eyes follow her. When she arrives at the storeroom, she goes inside to search for the speakers, but the door closes behind her, and she realizes she is locked in. Back on set, Utagi has yet to return. The staff member who asked her to retrieve the speakers is scolded. Someone else is sent to check for them, and goes to the school storeroom instead of the gym storeroom, where Utagi is trapped. Taman begins to grow uneasy and decides to go look for her himself. Inside the storeroom, Utagi starts banging on the door, trying to alert someone to her presence. The door suddenly opens, revealing Taman in his Gloomhara mode. He looks relieved to see that she is safe and steps inside, but the door accidentally slides shut behind him, locking them both inside. Utagi panics and resumes banging on the door for help. Meanwhile, Taman becomes so distressed that he starts growing mushrooms. Realizing that his anxiety might prevent him from switching back to his idol persona, Utagi decides to calm him down first. She reassures him that someone is bound to notice he's missing soon and that they will start searching for him. Meanwhile, the staff notice that they are missing and begin searching for them. Yu briefly considers stopping the filming altogether but then realizes something. Back in the storeroom, Utagi continues trying to convince Taman that their situation will improve. However, she herself feels miserable about everything. Taman seems to notice. He looks at her and says he knows she isn't fine. Gently patting her head, he tells her she's probably tired. Utagi tries to argue, but Taman points out that the cheering fans were handmade and she must have rushed to make them for the trip. Utagi finally admits that she is a little tired. Taman then tells her that he pays more attention to her than she thinks. She blushes, but before she can respond, they hear voices outside. Utagi quickly shouts that they are in the storeroom. Once they are freed, Utagi apologizes for wasting everyone's time. Taman immediately defends her, explaining that the door locked on its own. Kato approaches Taman, pretending to hug him while quietly asking whether Utagi had done anything to him. Ori sighs, noticing that their facade is beginning to crack. However, Yu comes forward and admits that everything was actually his fault. He had tampered with the door so it could only be opened from the outside. Apparently, he had hoped Taman would accidentally lock himself in so they could capture his frightened reaction on camera. Taman steps forward and tells Yu that every member will do their best to make the test of courage exciting. The others follow his lead, reassuring the filming team that they will deliver a great performance. With the matter settled, they resume filming the test of courage. The next day is the final day of shooting. Utagi prepares the set by laying out the ingredients and kitchen supplies to be used by Face. Kato approaches her, slightly irritated that she's being made to handle tasks outside her responsibilities. He tells her to remove some of the carrots and only set out the sharper knives, explaining that Taman hates carrots and is overly clumsy. As he grumbles about how much of a handful Taman is, Utagi realizes that Kato actually cares about him. She mentions that when Kato praises Taman on camera, she believes he truly means it. She thinks he's like Ori and Taman and is unable to lie about things that genuinely matter to them. Kato mutters that he does everything for the money and adds that Taman would be a really cool person if he just got himself together. Utagi catches the affection hidden in his tone, but Kato reminds her not to interfere with how he does things since he is the leader of Face. He leaves to prepare for filming while Utagi continues helping around the set. During the shoot, Kato impresses the members with his expert knife skills. He reveals that he used to work at a cafe and surprises everyone by mentioning that he has 5 younger brothers. By sunset, filming finally wraps up. Utagi heads to the beach and finds Taman trying to take a photo of a hermit crab. When she approaches him, he explains that he wanted to show her pictures of the sea. He proudly shows her the plain photo he took of the crab, which makes her laugh since it's very on-brand for him to take such a shot. They relax for a while, building sandcastles. Taman mentions that he learned why Kato became an idol. After the shoot, Kato had told the members about his family's financial situation and how he wanted to earn enough to ease his mother's burden. Hearing that, Taman tells Utagi that he now feels even more motivated to work hard to support Kato as well. Utagi declares that she will support the new Face too. Just then, a wave crashes into her, leaving her completely drenched. Taman quickly drapes his jacket over her shoulders to help her dry off. Ori happens to spot them and starts walking toward them. Utagi insists that she's fine and mentions she got a full 8 hours of sleep, which makes Taman smile since she does look healthier. However, from Ori's angle, it looks as though Taman and Utagi are kissing. Misinterpreting the scene, he immediately runs off. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss a new episode every week.